I'm Pamela Wilson. As a media relations professional, I've been interviewed numerous times by both local and national media outlets for more than 20 years. Those interviews usually took place either in a news studio or on location at an event. However, the COVID pandemic has completely changed the logistics of media interviews. Today, those interviews no longer take place in studios. Instead, they more likely take place on social media platforms or by virtual or remote interviews like I'm doing right now. As we make a transition to this new way of operating, peers in the media relations profession have often discussed ways to keep our interviews both relevant and engaging. We must continue to create visuals that appropriately reflect the mission, vision, and values of our respective organizations. Now, using canned videos or canned backgrounds, like we've seen in many videos in recent times, are okay for informal meetings or for video chats with your friends, but they certainly do not represent either a corporate or government brand, unless, of course, you represent a beach resort or the Golden Gate Bridge. Something that's even better than doing that is using some really customized techniques. And besides, those canned backgrounds can often be prone to what industry professionals call glitching. That's when that hazy glow or shadow comes around the person's body when they move from side to side or something. And you can tell that that's not a very polished look. So how then do we create the appropriate background? Well, for starters, don't think of it as a background. Think of it as a studio or a set. Just like you have a set when you go into a news studio, you can create your own set in your home or your office. And that means you can do some very simple things. And there's a 3-step process to that. I call it light, camera, and action. Let's start off with lights. When you go into a news studio, what do you see? You see a lot of light on the anchor's face and upper body, and you see a darkened set beyond the desk. You can create the same effect at your home or office by dimming the overhead lights and then maybe shutting the blinds, but leaving a little bit of natural light. You just experiment with that. And then getting a spotlight like they do on the news set for your face and body. Now, you might be thinking, I don't have a spotlight at my house. Well, actually, you might, because many people have those clamp lights either in their garage or in their car that many people keep around the house. And I'll show you one that I'm using right now. Actually from my husband's work kit. This is a clamp light. It's a light with that little clamp on the bottom of it. And these things cost between $4 and $12. So they're wonderful and they serve as a great spotlight. Now, when you're using the spotlight though, remember to test it and experiment a little bit. Here's where there's too much contrast. That's because I'm just leaning it down. Now I'm just angling it back up a little bit, okay? So then you can see you can get different looks by just moving it around, okay? Angling it a little differently. You can get different effects by moving closer or further from the camera, and that light will be perfect. And you'll know when you get the right look because it will be smooth without a glare. That's light. Now then camera is the next thing. Many people make the mistake of using the camera that is inside their laptop. That is not the best choice because it does not produce the most photogenic result. What's better is to use an external camera. You can get many different types of cameras. They're from really expensive to really inexpensive. And one of the best ones is only like $25 or $30, I think. Most of the time they're somewhere around $25 or $30. And that is the best one I've seen because it has what is called built-in image enhancement. It automatically adjusts to make your skin look smoother, and it makes any kind of fine lines even not appear as much on the screen when you're doing an interview. And that is a good thing. I'm in my mid-60s, I'm using this camera, Now, I know there's some genetic reasons why I look this way in my mid 60s, but this camera is really a very wonderful tool. It is great. I've seen myself in different kinds of cameras, and this one is absolutely one of the best ones I have used myself. So that's a camera. Now, the third step is action. Just like on the news broadcast, you want to pay attention to what's in your set. Okay, you must carefully plan what's going to be shown on the set. Let's start with your clothing. The first thing is that you should have on some solid color clothing, preferably a dark color. It doesn't have to be a dark color. You can wear, a business suit, or you can wear, I have on a sweater dress. Sweater dresses have been my staple when I go on a lot of interviews. I used to go and wear a sweater dress, sometimes put a blazer over it, and I'd put my work pin on there so that I'd show representing my agency. You can do that too. So you can use a solid colored shirt. I don't recommend patterns because they can look very distracting, and they also can look like they are moving around. They kind of move around during the interview. So wear a solid color, dark color. You can wear other than dark, but don't wear like neon type colors, and do not wear white because white can often cover costs looking very glary as well. So that is the clothing. Now, when it comes down to jewelry, I wear very small round earrings. They're not, they're not very distracting. I don't suggest long hanging earrings, but people do wear them and it's okay. I mean, it's not a deal breaker. Those are okay too, but I think the more minimal you can be with jewelry, the better. Of course, I wear my red ring and you should do that. But the whole idea is to keep it plain and simple, and or don't wear it at all. So that's on your clothing and jewelry. Now let's look at the rest of your set. You can set up your set in front of a plain wall, or you can set it up in and put some minimal artwork on there, maybe a neutral painted wall, some minimal artwork, or you can set it up in front of something like a bookshelf, which always to me is always nice. It kind of gives something of a visual, not just plain wall. But I'll caution you on your own bookcases in your house. Now, for me, when I'm in my house, in my bookcase, this is the bookcase in my house, and I'm doing an interview, I put some very neutral books there. Those are classic literature. I have a clock. I have a wedding picture, which was always appropriate. What you don't see on here that I normally keep on here, I normally have a lot of Christian books on this shelf. I move those books when I'm doing a professional interview because those are my personal expressions of faith. And remember, when you're doing an interview, you're not representing yourself, you're representing your organization. So I try to remove any kind of bias type things, any kind of Christian or religious bias, political bias. Even you can go as far as even sports teams, because depending on who's interviewing you, you don't know if you like one team and they like another or something like that. So I just try to be as neutral as possible in the background that I have in my set. The sports teams might be going a little bit too far, but you get the idea. You want to make sure that you're representing a neutral point of view, especially in our profession, because although the news profession has gone off the chain as far as not being unbiased anymore, as professionals, we still need to be unbiased. So that's why I'm advising keeping your shelf to nothing that's really showing one way or the other bias. So that's the shelf. Now, an important thing that I have behind me on my shelf that you can obviously notice is this U.S. flag. The flag is really good to have if any kind of official for any level of government, state, federal, local. It's absolutely appropriate for a federal official, of course, but even a state official can put your flag there. You can put the state flag on this side. If you're an organization, nonprofit or something, you might have your organizational flag up there, or the U.S. flag, or just not the U.S., but maybe just your organizational flag. You can also put up things like posters or campaigns that your organization is working on. I remember a while back that our organization had a campaign to keep people from being duped and scammed in these online scam things, and we had a campaign for that. There was a poster that went with that campaign. I grabbed that poster right before an interview. And I think at that time I was in my office, I put the poster up. It was a perfect backdrop. You can do something like that if you are doing a cancer society and you have a walk going on, you might have a poster about the walk or something up there. So there's many things you can do with your set. If it's a wall, you can use push pins and put it up there, because remember, you're not going to see a certain part of the back of the set. Now, when it comes down to this flag, I want to tell you that this flag is very special and important to me, because this is the flag that was on my father's casket. My father was a career soldier. He served from the 50s to the late 60s, and he served a very bulk of the Vietnam War, and he was in the military. And this is his flag that was on his casket. It's important to me, and it gives me, it's sentimentally valuable to me. And it, you might have other things like that that's valuable to you, but it's not a bias type thing. Another secret about this flag is how it's attached. And I'll tell you a secret. You might think this flag is on a flagpole, but it isn't. It's held up on this shelf by 3 heavy books, and that's it. And that's how it's being held on the shelf. Now you can attach your flag that way, or you can do it another way if you find a way to put it on your set. But it's always an appropriate thing for any government official to have the U.S. flag there. So especially federal ones. So that's one thing. Now here's some other optional things you can do during your interview. And I'll put my camera back down a little bit. So you can have a cell phone video looking at you and taking your video, taping it in real time, so that you can have a copy of your own interview. When you're finished with your interview on the news station, the host does not always provide you a copy of your interview right away, if at all. Sometimes they have it on their website, or sometimes it takes them a few days to get it to you. But in the meantime, you'd already have a copy of your own interview. So that's the tip to have. And they may not even run the whole interview. They may not even take the whole, or give you the whole interview. So even in that case, you still have a copy for yourself. So I suggest you do that. Another thing that you can do is, if you are doing a very long amount of talking, a long speech type presentation, you might want to use an online teleprompter. There's many free online teleprompters that you can use. Teleprompter-online.com is one that I've used a lot. There's another one called telepromptermirror.com that's really good. And most of these are free, and you can just Google to look for them. And there's so many free ones, so you don't ever have to pay for those. And so but when you're doing the prompter, once you get your text box where the prompt is coming up, the writing is going to go right up. Make sure that you have a very narrow box. Just stretch it, squeeze it narrow, because if you have it too wide when you're reading, it's going to look like your eyes are going like that. Keep it narrow and keep it at the top of the screen near the camera. And then your eyes will always be looking at the camera, and no one will ever be the wiser that you're using a prompter. And another thing that you can do, if you're having a 2-person interview, my husband and I did this like a sort of an anchor. We were the hosts of a virtual New Year's Eve party at the end of 2020, when no one was going places because of COVID. So we got all dressed up in a tuxedo and gown, and we had an anchor table that we set up. We were the host of something that was done in multi-cities, and we were the host in Atlanta. And we just took 2 card tables, literally 2 card tables, and put like a black cloth. It might have been a tablecloth or a sheet even, I can't remember, but it was black. And it was just a perfect background. And when you look back at it, it looked like a set, a news desk set. So that was really nice. We had an easel with some notes on it on a big poster board, so we could look at it, beyond the camera, but people couldn't see us reading that. We didn't use a prompter that day. And we also had a separate monitor, so each person could sort of see what they look like on camera. We had 2 separate monitors that day, even though when we were presenting, we were both on the same camera. That's another thing you can do. And lastly, I want to say a really, really optional thing, because I know most people do not, I'm saying everybody doesn't always wear makeup, particularly guys. Even though in the newsroom, I learned a lot from going to newsrooms and being in green rooms when anchors were getting ready. The anchor desk people were getting ready to get on the set. They would be in there sometimes putting on their makeup. And I asked them, they said they all use translucent powder. And many people use this, not only in the news business, but just in entertainment, because what they say is that it's perfect for the lighting that is on the set, and it makes you look really, really polished. So you can put that on. Now, in addition to that, I have on a little bit of foundation under the powder. I have on eyeliner. I have an eyebrow pencil, a tiny bit of eyeshadow, which is, it has to be very minimal because especially for an official daytime interview, you don't want to look like you're like a movie star or something, but you do want to have your eyes a little refined if you want to do this. And then I have on a very thin layer of lipsticks, and that's it. So as I said, makeup is optional. Not everyone wears it. You don't have to. I think people look good with or without it. I just happen to choose to use it. And it's something that just would give you a little more polished look on an interview. And that is my presentation. So if you have any questions for me about this interview, you can call or email me if you have my email or phone number. Or if you don't know me personally, you can find me on LinkedIn. And my name is Pamela Wilson. I am based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm easy to find because I work for the government. So please email me, call me, and just if you have any questions or comments or even more suggestions that we can pass along to our peers. We have many peers in state, federal, and many federal communicators that are doing a lot of this. This is our new normal, and we will all be doing more virtual types of interviews and news, interactions as this time goes on. We may never go back fully to the other way. So I hope you will use some of these tools that we've discussed today, and I hope that they would help you in representing your respective agencies. Thanks for listening, and